the left is really exercised over Brett Kavanaugh because they recognize that the right, in attempting to reconstrain the judiciary to its traditional role of interpreting the Constitution rather than imposing political priorities, that this threatens the left's agenda. The left believes that its agenda can only be spread not through public legislation, not through the popularity of its agenda, but just by a bunch of people who are really, really wise and liberal and who can impose their views from above. And so the idea of a Brett Kavanaugh who's going to come in and help create a new majority on the court that's actually going to stick to the judiciary's job, this scares the living hell, it scares the living daylights out of Democrats. And so they're just lying about Brett Kavanaugh now. So the first lie they're telling is they are suggesting that President Trump is appointing Brett Kavanaugh because Brett Kavanaugh is going to protect President Trump from impeachment. This is legitimately what they are saying. So Chuck Schumer is making this case. He says this is the real reason that Trump wants Kavanaugh.
If he was the judge probably of the 25, they all would repeal Roe. They all would repeal ACA. But on this issue, the Mueller issue, which came up after the vetting by these two groups, he's probably the most extreme. And it wouldn't surprise me if that was very important to Donald Trump, knowing Donald Trump, and I have no proof. Do you think he didn't inquire about this?
Right. Every word of what Chuck Schumer just said is a lie. First of all, not every judge on that list would vote to overturn Roe. In fact, I have serious doubts that Kavanaugh will vote to overturn Roe. We'll get to that in just a little while. This implication that Kavanaugh is somehow going to protect the president of the United States from criminal indictment is just not true. It not only is it not true, even the Washington Post says it's not true. So the accusation is that Kavanaugh, in 2009, published an article in the Minnesota Law Review in which he discussed the possibility of indicting the sitting president of the United States criminally. And here is what he says, according to the Washington Post, and not according to me, not according to National Review, according to the left-wing Washington Post. Kavanaugh helped investigate President Bill Clinton as part of independent counsel Ken Starr's team in the 1990s. Looking back, Kavanaugh wrote in his 2009 article, the nation certainly would have been better off if President Clinton could have focused on Osama bin Laden without being distracted by the Paula Jones sexual harassment case and its criminal investigation offshoots, which is an interesting switch by Kavanaugh, who was part of, again, the Ken Starr team. What he says, the president should not be indicted, but he says you need an act of Congress to prevent the president from being indicted. In other words, it's not up to the judiciary to protect the president. The president can be indicted. The Constitution doesn't prevent that. You need an act of Congress. That's not stopping the left from continuously lying about Brett Kavanaugh. You've got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, new left-wing hero. She tweets out, the fact that SCOTUS pick Kavanaugh believes the president cannot be indicted is an automatic disqualification from a Supreme Court consideration. He never said that. He never believed that. He's never written that. But these lies are coming fast and furious about Kavanaugh. That's not even the stupidest one. We'll get to a couple more that are incredibly dumb. So let's begin with NARAL, Pro-Choice America. So NARAL is, of course, an abortion rights group. And here is what they tweeted out. Right, it's 15. Here's what they tweeted out. They tweeted out, back off, Brett, and with the clappy hands. First of all, you who use the clappy hands emoji, stop it. You're making yourself look like a douche. It's stupid. Okay, the clappy hands emojis are dumb unless you're using them ironically. It's one of those things like using the word woke. If you use the word woke ironically, then I'm okay with you using the word woke. If you use the word woke without any sense of irony about your own douchiness, then I have nothing to say to you. And the same thing is true about the clappy hands emoji. So it's like, back off, Brett. Okay, you're an idiot. Okay, here's what NARAL actually tweeted. We'll be damned, all caps, if we're going to let 5 men, including some frat boy named Brett, strip us of our hard-won bodily autonomy and reproductive rights. First of all, it's not hard-won bodily autonomy and reproductive rights. That's the entire point. You couldn't pass legislation. It was handed to you on a platter by the Supreme Court. I'd say it wasn't hard-won bodily autonomy and reproductive rights. First of all, even if you think that killing a baby in your womb is bodily autonomy, you didn't win anything near all Pro-Choice America. You won nothing. It was the Supreme Court that handed you stuff on a silver platter because the American people don't agree with your agenda. Polls show that even pro-choice Americans are very much in favor of restrictions on second and third trimester abortions, for example. My favorite part of this tweet, though, is where they suggest that Brett Kavanaugh is some frat boy named Brett. Have you, seen Brett Kavanaugh? Have you, looked at Brett Kavanaugh? You think he's going and, he's chugging beer with the bros in the aftermath of his D.C. Circuit court cases? That's what he goes and plays beer pong after making his decisions? And he's butt chugging things? That's Brett Kavanaugh? Really? I'm going to go no on that. Frat boy named Brett. Brett Kavanaugh has been on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals for 12 years. Before that, he was involved in virtually every level of federal litigation. Brett Kavanaugh is about the nerdiest guy you will ever find. He is a hardcore Catholic who sends his daughters to Catholic school, coaches his daughter's basketball team, and volunteers at the soup kitchen. Frat boy named Brett. But no, we're the sexists. We're the sexists. All men who don't believe the same things that Narol believes, they're frat boys. I love that the left has been relegated to mocking Brett Kavanaugh's first name. Like, really, this is a thing now. They've got nothing, so they're now relegated to mocking Brett Kavanaugh's first name. So Stephen Colbert, he has nothing on Kavanaugh. He's got nothing to say. So here is what he says about Kavanaugh. We can't have a guy in the Supreme Court named Brett. Like, what's next? You're going to have a guy in the Supreme Court named Paisley? Like, what's going to happen? So here's Stephen Colbert making the very solid case that you should never have someone on the Supreme Court named Brett because something.
I don't know much about Kavanaugh, but I'm skeptical because his name is Brett. That sounds less like a Supreme Court justice and more like a waiter at Ruby Tuesdays. Hey, everybody, I'm Brett. I'll be your Supreme Court justice tonight. Before you sit down, let me just clear away these rights for you.
What? Like, that's your case? That's a real strong case right there, that his name is Brett. What are we, in third grade? Brett can't be a Supreme Court justice. I mean, his name is Brett. Also, like, there have been a fair number of actual prominent Bretts in American public life, including, of course, Brett Favre, who was a very manly man and not the Brett at Ruby Tuesdays. But in any case, Stephen Colbert, I mean, if I will say Stephen Colbert is right. My understanding is that Stephen Colbert actually changed the pronunciation of his name in college. This is the rumor that was going on, is that Stephen Colbert is actually pronounced Stephen Colbert. And he actually changed it to Colbert because it sounds more sophisticated. In any case, Brett sounds like a manager at Ruby Tuesdays, which apparently is a bad thing. Apparently it's terrible to work at Ruby Tuesdays. It means that you're unqualified for anything. So menial laborers, you never aspire to go to law school. Nobody who has ever worked at Ruby Tuesdays ever went on to go be a lawyer. No one. They all stayed there forever. And they wore flair. That's what they did. But Stephen Colbert going after Brett Kavanaugh's name. Stephen Colbert, that's a name that sounds to me like a failed comedian. Like, if I just had to pull it out of the air, I would just say, Stephen Colbert sounds like a dude who can't make a good joke. That's what I would probably say about it. My favorite rip on Kavanaugh, however, goes to Joy Behar. So Joy Behar, who legitimately has the IQ of a kumquat. I mean, the woman is just inane. She says this about Brett Kavanaugh. She says that Brett Kavanaugh is basically Judge Jeanine Pirro. Yeah. Okay.
It is not Judge Jeanine Pirro, which I, at one point in time, thought was actually a possibility of becoming a Supreme Court justice. So
it could have been worse.
For you, it could have been much worse.
Well, he might be just a quieter version of Judge Jeanine. No, she's just out there.
He was very.
He's a more what? He's a better version of Judge Jeanine. He's a quieter version of Judge Jeanine. Yeah, if you're a nutcase, if you were dropped on your head as a baby, if you fell off the stupid tree and you hit every branch on the way down, he's just like Judge Jeanine, except for nothing, except for, his wisely considered and brilliant defenses that run like 50 pages at a time. Yeah, listen, I know Judge Jeanine. I like Judge Jeanine. But Judge Jeanine gives speeches where at the end of her speeches, she literally says, I'm right. How do you know? Because I'm the judge. I've literally seen her give speeches like that because she's a television performer. That's what she does. Okay, I've never seen a Judge Kavanaugh decision where at the end he says, and I'm right. How do you know? Because I'm the D.C. Circuit judge. No. But the level of stupidity to which the left is subjecting itself is truly astonishing. We'll get to more of this in just a second, and we'll get to Roe v. Wade and President Trump going after NATO in pretty strong fashion. But first, let's talk about movement watches. So movement makes the best stuff. I mean, it really is great. I have two movement watches. This right here, this is a movement watch. You see the clean, spare design. All it does is tell the time in beautiful fashion. It is magnificent. Also, these watches are incredibly durable. My son particularly loves these watches, which means he carries them around and bashes the living crap out of them. And they somehow survive and look exactly the same as the day that I got them. Movement started off from being crowd-funded kids working out of a living room, and they've grown like crazy. They now have almost 2 million watches sold in 160-plus countries, and they continue to revolutionize fashion on the belief that style should not break the bank. Their watches are about looking good, keeping it simple. You're not going to, it ain't, an iWatch, okay? It's not going to be telling you your texts. It's not going to be telling you, how many calories you burned today. It's going to be telling you the time, which is what you want out of a watch because it's a watch, okay? It's not a computer. You don't want to strap a laptop to your wrist. You want an actual watch that just looks nice for $95. That's where their watches start. At a department store, you're looking at $400, $500. Movement figured out by selling online, they could cut out the middleman and retail markup, and they could provide the best possible price. Classic design, quality construction, style minimalism. A lot of my fans have movement watches. That's happening for a reason. Go check it out at mvmt.com/Shapiro and get 15% off today with free shipping and free returns. That's mvmt.com/Shapiro. Check out their expanding collection. They also have They also have, like, now I think bracelets and sunglasses and a bunch of other stuff as well. MVMT.com/Shapiro. Join the movement. Go check it out. Really good stuff. Okay, so the stupidity about Brett Kavanaugh does not end there. A bunch of Yale law students.
Greetings, citizens of the world. Following the bombshell release of the Inspector General's report on the investigation into Hillary Clinton's misuse of classified emails, more devastating evidence is emerging of corruption at the highest level. Thursday's release of the IGS report has already highlighted that Hillary Clinton and Foundation have committed crime against children. Aside from confirmation that the DOJ and FBI have evidence of these horrific crimes, it has also transpired that former President Obama lied to protect Clinton during these investigations. Since the 500-page report was finally made public this week, citizens have slowly been digesting the shocking levels of corruptions it exposes. FBI shows pro-Clinton bias among the reports as text message conversations between FBI agents investigating the emails case. The language used in conversation between investigators shows an overwhelming pro-Hillary Clinton and anti-Donald Trump bias. According to Zero Hedge, one of 4 FBI agents investigating Hillary Clinton's email server, not Peter Strzok or Lisa Page, referred to Clinton as the president in a text exchange with another FBI employee 4 days after interviewing the Democratic candidate, according to Thursday's DOJ Inspector General report. Then, in a different text exchange with one of the other 3 Clinton email investigators, not Peter Strzok or Lisa Page, another agent wrote, "Screw you Trump," after the first agent admitted, "You should know that I''am with her." Those FBI investigators were dating at the time and were later married, meaning all 4 FBI case agents working the Hillary Clinton email investigation, the other 2 being Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, were ardent Clinton supporters, and at least 3 harbored animus towards Trump. The report released yesterday by the Inspector General for the Department of Justice referred to these 2 FBI agents not by their names but as Agent 1 and Agent 5. The report said of these FBI agents that we identified 2 instant message exchanges that appeared to combine a discussion of politics with the mid-year investigation. The FBI referred to the Clinton email investigation as mid-year exam, mid-year, or MIE. CNS News. The same agent who texted "Screw you Trump," Agent 5, also wrote "She better win. Otherwise I'm gonna be walking around with both of my guns. And likely quitting on the spot, as well as fuck Trump" on December 6. Clinton was interviewed by FBI agents on July 2 about her use of a private, unsecured email server which housed classified information while she was Secretary of State. According to the IG report, however, the FBI had already decided against recommending prosecution unless Clinton lied or confessed. By the time of Clinton's interview on July 2, we found that the mid-year agents and prosecutors, along with Comey, had decided that absent a confession or false statements by Clinton, the investigation would be closed without charges, reads the IG report. James Comey announced that the FBI would not recommend charges against Clinton 3 days later despite evidence of potential violations of statutes. Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case, he said. At the same time, Comey thanked FBI personnel for what he called their remarkable work on the Clinton case and said that Americans would better understand how proud he was of these FBI agents when they had a better sense of the work they had done on the Clinton case. CNS News. I want to start by thanking the FBI employees who did remarkable work in this case, Comey said. Once you have a better sense of how much we have done, you will understand why I am so grateful and proud of their efforts. Just remember, the Obama administration was scandal-free, and according to the DOJ, after investigating itself, there was no evidence that any of the overt and well-documented bias harbored by agents crept into the Hillary Clinton email investigation.